Welcome, everybody, to the Legendarium Podcast, another weekend edition. I am Craig, your host, and over there, he's Kyle, and he can't even be bothered to get off his phone.
I'm looking at my mediocre notes, okay? I'm pulling those up, and you were like, you good to go? We got notes? And I'm like, shit, I should get my notes out, and so that's what I'm doing.
And, Kyle, you need to behave yourself because we have company today.
I'm sorry, I forgot. These are weekend episodes.
They're supposed to be relaxed.
Something like
but
that.
But not you. Put your pants back on.
I'm sorry.
With us today is Adam Sherlock from Deep Dive Film School.
Hello.
Hi, Adam.
How's it going?
Should I call you Sherlock?
Yeah, I go by Sherlock most of the time,
okay,
I think.
Good. I think that's just only right and proper.
And it's just my last name. I think a lot of times when people don't know it's my last name, they assume it's a derogatory thing because it seems like I'm like some know-it-all.
Well-spoken, Sherlock.
Exactly. People are like, oh, I thought people were just being rude to him for 6 months, and then I found out it was his last name. So no, Sherlock is absolutely fine.
He uses deductive reasoning to break down movies.
All the time.
I hope that you will go check it out. I was recently, I had the honor, the distinction of being a guest on Deep Dive Film School. So you can see that on YouTube. You can hear the podcast.
Yep.
It's everywhere fine podcasts are distributed and on YouTube.
All the places. So all the spaces.
Anyway, so yeah, I do hope you go check them out. Please do so. Now, today we are talking about video game movies.
Yes.
And this is promising to be one of the best episodes we've ever done. Because it's maybe the best subject we've ever done. Yeah, sure.
High praise, low bar.
We had Brent Weeks talking about the Odyssey. Sure, we had Brandon Sanderson talking about Discworld. Sure, we've done Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion and all that. I don't care. Video game movies, this is gonna be a top 3. So
never had some guy from some show you've never heard about talk about really bad movies before.
Hey, really bad movies. We haven't even established that
is
yet.
True. That is true. We haven't.
Yeah,
they're really bad movies.
It's established.
So the main question we're going to be getting at slowly but surely, because today is a more relaxed weekend episode. But the question we're going to be getting at is, why do video game movies suck so bad?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I first of all, I want to establish our criteria here, or I want to establish our premise. Do all video game movies suck? Have there ever been video game movies in our experience that did not suck? Now, I'm going to throw one out there. And this could be a bit of recency bias, but I really do. I feel like I could defend this one. The most recent Tomb Raider movie, I'm not saying it was high art or anything, but it didn't suck.
This is not the Angelina Jolie.
No.
Alicia
Vikander.
Yeah, from Ex Machina, right?
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Didn't suck.
So,
and that's, in fact, I would have gone so far as to call it competently made.
But
that's high praise from Craig, just so you all know.
It took 4 movies to get there, though. Like, they had to make the Tomb Raider movie adaptation that many times to get to one that was at least, like, somewhat competent.
That's passable.
So, do you guys have any... And I'm not talking about ones that you enjoy. That is a completely different category. Good video game movies on your list.
Again, we were talking about this a little bit, but it's kind of, are you talking about good video game movies compared to other video game movies, or just good video game movies as movies?
Qua movie. Yeah, it has to be. You have to judge it as a movie, not on the curve.
Oh, well then no.
And that's why I say, it may not be high art
ones that
anything,
I like. I have video game movies that I enjoy, but
again,
that's terrible. Terrible.
So on the Raul Julia bell curve, we have Dr. Zhivago on one end and the Street Fighter movie on the other. And where does is that what we're saying?
Sure.
Okay.
I was gonna go not Street Fighter so much as the straight to the made for TV Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh yeah, that one's is that Annihilation?
No, that one actually had a release.
No, that one actually,
believe it or not,
someone along the line believed in that one. I think people will see this.
Throw more money at that.
No. I don't think that there is. I don't. I mean,
really? Not even the Alicia Vikander one.
I think that one's okay.
I think that one's okay.
I think that one's okay. And I think that's about as far. I mean, if you think about it, that's even someone like Duncan Jones, who made Moon, made Warcraft,
right?
and which at first I was like, why did you do that? But then
why would you do that?
would you do that with your time and money? But if even that guy who has made very, very good movies can't suss out something, then I mean, I think that it's a little bit of a losing battle.
Yeah, no, I agree. So generally speaking, I think, yeah, they suck. Now, before we get to the reasons for all of this, what are the worst video game movies ever? Not the ones that you hate the most, but the worst ones. Mortal Kombat Annihilation has got to be up there.
I'm going first and foremost Super Mario Brothers.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Super Mario Brothers is bad.
It's so bad for reasons that have nothing to do with it being a video game movie.
That's true.
It's bad. It like every like drop of creativity that went into this was so weirdly
wasted
and carried out, right? So you have like Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, Dennis Hopper as President Goomba. Like they couldn't even leave it to be like
King Koopa.
Yeah, let's follow the lineage of what this story actually is. It's like, and then
it's been so long since I've seen that movie. Was this supposed to be some kind of commentary? Were they trying to make political commentary by making him President Goomba instead of King Koopa?
It's interesting you mentioned that because at the end of the movie, they do annihilate the Twin Towers. And I'm not kidding.
Really?
Yes. If that's not a reason to go back and revisit Super Mario Brothers, I don't know what is. But I was watching some clips of it the other night and I was like, oh no. Oh, wow. Yeah, they really did. They had some kind of weird
they decided to go there.
Laser and it got rid of the World Trade Center.
That's awesome.
I mean, don't let the conspiracy theorists get a hold of that one. But to me, that's one of the worst ones.
Okay. I guess, again, it's been a while since I've seen it,
yes.
So take this with a grain of salt. But I feel like Mario Brothers would be more watchable than Annihilation, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Where that one is so painful to watch that I'm not sure if I could place it above Super Mario.
Okay, so you're even going with like, even if it's painful to watch, it at least has that by its own merit, has a redeeming quality to it where you're like, this is awful.
There's something kind of innocent and goofy. John Leguizamo is chewing the scenery the whole time. You got the Goombas with the tiny heads and there's the little comedic moment with the Babam crawling around, like they're
somewhat
little
charming at least.
There's a little bit of charm to go
Right.
with it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Right.
If you want to talk about something that's lacking in total charm, and we could save this till later if you want to, but the whole thought of this conversation did make me start thinking about Uwe Boll. Are you familiar?
No.
What about you, Craig? Familiar with Uwe Boll?
Not Uwe Boll's oeuvre.
So Uwe Boll, the German director, the notoriously horrible German director, has made a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 video game films.
No way.
And all of them are rated as some of the worst movies ever made.
Now, did all of them get theatrical releases? Because I have in my hands a list of every video game movie that ever had a U.S. theatrical release.
A lot of these did. And a lot of these actually had maybe not huge name actors, but at least relatively like box office worthy actors. So we had House of the Dead.
Yes, got it.
Alone in the Dark.
Don't have it.
Alone in the Dark is one of the worst movies ever made. This is a Christian Slater film. It's Christian Slater and Tara Reid. We've got
Sign Me Up.
Blood Rain and its 2 sequels. Yes. In the Name of the King, starring Jason Statham.
That one I know.
And its sequel.
It had a sequel?
It had a sequel. You got to think. He's trying to do like Lord of the Rings level like adventure movie here on like the most minuscule budget, like with Sharknado level effects, right? Then you've got Postal, and you guys remember the PC game Postal, right?
Yeah.
And then the movie was basically like this really, really raunchy, horrible, over the top, violent movie. And then he did a movie.
Sounds perfect.
He did a movie of Far Cry. Now, he is also infamous for tons and tons and tons of failed Kickstarter campaigns for more movies based upon video games he wanted to make, and they would fail, and so then he would do a YouTube video calling all of his followers losers and telling them all to go to hell. And in 2006, all the people that had been smearing all of his previous movies, he actually rented out a boxing ring and challenged them to box him.
His fans,
his critics, the people who critiqued his films.
Yeah.
And a handful of them showed up because they were like, Uwe Boll, like, this will be fun. It'll be for, like charity or something. And Uwe Boll beat the shit out of them. Like one guy got his nose broken in 3 places and left and was like, I thought we were going to have fun, but he was really mad at me for the stuff I said about his movies. So it just got me thinking, like, this whole guy, he's no longer a filmmaker. He now owns restaurants.
Yes.
But he left all of this behind because he no one understood his vision. He loves video games. He wanted to make like the movie versions of these things. And he's just a totally incompetent filmmaker.
That's fantastic.
You don't like my movies? I'll fight you.
I will fight you.
Literally, that's what he did.
And he did. And like some of these guys were like, he was really mad at me. Like he hurt me. Like I had to go to the hospital.
All right.
So anyway, I figured that a moment for Uwe Boll was necessary. But
pour one out.
Raging Bull.
Yep. So I've heard of director's jail, where like M. Night Shyamalan had to go to director jail for a while.
Yes.
And he couldn't make a movie until you were let out of jail. But that's kind of self-imposed exile at a certain point.
There's this fun cowboy feeling about like independent directors that are out there doing their own thing. But if literally your work is so abhorrent that no studio will have you, that's a different kind of sort of cowboy ethic, right?
Nice. So, all right, some facts for you guys. You ready for this?
Yes.
In 26 years since Super Mario Brothers came out, that is, according to the good Lord Wikipedia, that is the first wide release video game movie in the US.
Super Mario Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers in 1993.
Okay.
So in the 26 years since then, there have been 40 theatrical releases. We're talking both live action and animated movies in the US. Okay, so of those, would you care to guess which ones were the biggest successes and which ones were the biggest bombs? So let's go successes first. What do you think actually performed well at the box office? I've got the top 5 here. So
I'm gonna go with Angry Birds.
Angry Birds. No.
Really?
Huh.
I'm surprised.
I'm disappointed in all these children.
I thought Angry Birds also. I'm gonna go with.
Oh wait, scratch that. Angry Birds comes in. Yes, it does come in at number 4. My apologies. You were correct.
Okay.
We're on the board.
We're on the
Family
board.
Feud style.
Assassin's Creed.
No.
Oh
No.
Warcraft.
Warcraft is number 1. Yes,
is number 1.
Thank you, China.
Worldwide box office
Oh
for
yeah,
Warcraft
probably
is
China, huh?
433.
See, and I would have thought that Fassbender would have at least brought in enough people to go and see Assassin's
Did you see
Creed.
it? Did you see it?
No.
It was so bad.
Really?
He could if Michael Fassbender can't save a movie,
Yeah.
it can't be saved.
Yeah.
I briefly thought about it the other night on YouTube TV. I saw it as a movie that I could watch, and I thought maybe I'll watch Assassin's Creed because we're going to do that podcast. And then I was like, nope,
That's still not worth my time.
As far
Still
as you
no.
got. And that's it. Moving
all right.
on.
There's another one that actually came out this year that is number 2 on the list.
Angry Birds 2.
Detective Pikachu
Ah,
comes in at number 2,
sure.
and then
Yeah,
Rampage. Rampage came out last
Oh.
year.
Oh, with The Rock.
fairly recent.
And then Prince of Persia would be number 5. I think.
Right.
So Prince of
I
Persia.
forgot that was a video game movie.
Yeah,
Prince
it was
of Persia.
I
so
didn't
the
hate
Sands of Time was a game on the GameCube, and it was a very fun game.
Oh yeah.
It was one of
I do remember this.
It was one of like 5 successful games on the GameCube.
Right.
I thought it was a good console, but it was not a successful console.
Yeah.
But that was one game that I thought really took advantage of the console.
GameCube was the one that had the little. Was that the one that had the little discs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mini discs.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't hate Prince of Persia. It wasn't great.
No.
But it wasn't.
And,
I don't know.
And
It was bad, but it
people
wasn't
kind of
as
made
bad as
fun
most
of
them.
they made fun of Jake Gyllenhaal as an action hero, and I was like, why? it's just as believable
I
as.
would have made more fun of him not being Persian.
Well, there is that.
Like, if you're going with realistic or not realistic, I'd be like, it's Jake Gyllenhaal.
Just really tan.
Is he the Prince of Persia? Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's just covered in sand. We can wipe all of that
Yeah,
off
exactly.
of his
Similarly, that gave us Gemma Arterton, who is English.
That's right.
And she plays the love interest.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's just...
And that, what a waste of two talents, right? Those are two immensely talented actors.
Yeah. I think that in Hollywood, that's called slumming.
There was, what's his name? Timothy Oliphant. Did an interview recently where somebody asked him about he'd run into money troubles, and I don't remember exactly what it was, a sick family member or something, and he had done a few successful projects, but he needed money, and he needed it now. And he was telling the story, and he's like, that's how you end up, on a street in Prague filming Hitman. And he just let loose on his own movie.
I mean, again, speaking of this, like there was some show in the UK that was asking Bob Hoskins. They were like, "What's your biggest regret?"
Can you do it?
And
I want your English accent doing this.
I know. Well, I could do my Hoskins back at you like that.
There you go.
But so they were asking him, and it was like 3 questions about like regret or like having a time machine and going back and changing something. And for all 3 his answers was Super Mario Brothers.
Nice.
Like each time was Super Mario Brothers, and you just figure like one of those producers out there somewhere is going, "Hey,
we wanted something juicier out of this."
that was my life's work.
Oh,
That's my favorite.
that
movie."
producer.
Yeah, that producer.
President Goomba.
Yep.
Okay, the least successful
You're going off of box office
office
right?
numbers. Yes,
Okay.
box office numbers.
Okay.
So that we're talking theatrical release. So I'm not
Right.
talking about red box releases like whatever the Uwe Bowl ones
Right.
have been. But actual box office releases. So I'm going to give you number 5 and number 4. Blood Rain, Uwe Boll, you said?
Is the worst.
No, that's number 5. That's the 5th
and
worst.
number 1,
Good enough to get a sequel.
number 1
3
is the bottom of the barrel.
3.7 million for Blood Rain, and then
God.
Double Dragon back in.
That was going to be my
Double
first one.
Dragon.
I have it listed right here.
Oh, okay, all right.
I've had to
2.3
review that
million.
movie for our old podcast Punishment Review.
Oh, nice.
Somebody gave me that one, which, speaking of slumming, this was in this Double Dragon. That was like this weird little spot where Alyssa Milano's career like hadn't taken
no.
back off again.
Is that the Kiss of the Vampire?
Yeah, I
stuff?
think, yes, I think this is like her softcore.
Yeah, I think
era.
that was.
Yeah.
I saw that on Daily Motion. I think was the streaming service.
Yes.
When I was 17 years old, I think it was a big hit on Daily Motion.
It's a vampire movie, Mom. I promise. It's not anything bad. Yeah, and for some reason, Alyssa Milano was in it. I was going to put Double Dragon as number 1. So if it's 4,
Yeah, so those actually made 7 digits, right?
dear God.
Tekken made less than $1 million. It was that was released in theaters. Tekken was
So that's
released.
number 3.
That was the 3rd worst. Tekken was released in 2010. Then Far Cry. You said that was another
Yes.
Uwe Boll.
That's another Uwe Boll.
$743,000 in the box office.
Okay.
And number 1, Postal.
Wow.
Really?
$146,000 at the U.S. or worldwide box office.
Ooh.
Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall is in that.
Well,
Is in Postal.
I love having a walking movie encyclopedia on the show.
He's sitting, but it's
Well,
fine.
whatever.
I mean, I'll get up and walk if you really want. Get up and walk,
Dance, monkey.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, 40
You're kidding.
in the last 23 years has it been? 26 years, 40 movies released. Those are the best and worst. There are 7 more with
I'm
release
curious.
dates coming out,
And 3 of the 5.
6 more after that still planned.
And 3 of the 5 you mentioned are Uwe Boll.
I'm
films.
curious
There you go.
if the total box office numbers from all of those video game movies would reach Avengers Endgame.
Yes. It would be close. It would actually be close. I wonder.
So, I
Dang,
think that
now
would
I
be
want to
pretty
do the
close.
math on that. It certainly would not reach Infinity War and Endgame.
Right,
together.
combined.
Yeah.
For sure.
So why is it, now that we're 20 minutes into the show, why is it that these movies suck so bad? This is a question that keeps nobody up at night, except for producers at Capcom, which probably no longer exists.
It has kept me up at night for the last 2 nights after you sent it to me.
Yeah,
I've been thinking a lot about this.
I've been thinking a little about this, and so
I think that one thing that's interesting to me is that, and again, speaking of Super Mario Brothers, and then of something like Double Dragon, like let's take Double Dragon for example. Okay, the actual game itself of Double Dragon is just like, it's 2 brothers or something, right? Yeah. And there's like 2 guys
in a time.
One has a chain, and that's literally it. And then there's bad guys, and you guys are like kind of karate guys, and you don't have sleeves, and then you just have streets, and you go around and you fight, and sometimes he whips the chain, and then if occasionally there's like a girl figure that you save, and that's it, right? It doesn't really get much further than that. And in the movie, it's like, the year's 1999, and Los Angeles has been overrun with toxic waste. It's like they immediately jump to this insane level of detail that some writer came up with. Right. And you go, were they starting with, hey, we have the rights to this video game? Or did they get 80% of the way through?
Ooh, and this should be a Double Dragon movie.
Guess what we just got the rights to, you guys? Double Dragon. Kids love that game.
Slap it on.
My dumbass son won't stop playing it. Let's throw that on. Right. And so there is this question of like, is that what happens?
Right. Well, I mean, that happens now with movies that end up in the Cloverfield franchise, right? Where it's like, yeah, this is a great movie, but nobody's going to see it.
Yeah.
So Cloverfield Paradox is fantastic.
Somebody just wakes J.J. Abrams up and he rolls over and he's
I got an idea.
Yeah, just let me get my stamp with my signature on it. And we'll do that.
Notary. I need a notary.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I suppose that's a possibility.
I think I've actually been thinking quite a bit about it too. And I think it gets to the point of it's a different storytelling medium, right?
Yeah.
So when you're playing a video game, the purpose of the video game is to put the player in as the protagonist. And so you get to kind of take a lot of shortcuts as far as your storytelling, because there's so much interaction. You're worried about the task at hand, and you're the one interacting with the game and the story, but you don't have to build your settings and your backstory quite as in depth as you do for a third-party audience who's going to empathize with the protagonist rather than be the actual protagonist in the story, right? And I think what happens is, they get the rights to these video games and they think, oh, Warcraft or World of Warcraft made a ton of money. It has a built-in audience. This is a guarantee win. We'll just do our thing and they'll fan service that thing like crazy.
Right.
But it doesn't have a broader appeal because they can't actually get into decent storytelling.
Well, okay. So I want to throw an idea out there, and that is that newer video game movies, or I should say it this way, movies based on newer video games have less excuse.
Right.
Okay, so storytelling wise, let me we're all sitting in a producer's room or at a conference table, and I'm standing up giving you a presentation, and here's my pitch, okay? So you got this guy. He's a plumber. He's an Italian plumber. He's got a mustache. He's a little bit chubby.
Okay.
And he's going to take on the king of the Goombas.
Sorry, good question in the back. What's a Goomba?
Goomba. It's a little thing that looks like the tip of a penis, and you jump on it, and it goes away.
This is a game for kids.
Correct.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Now I'm back.
Okay. So so he fights the Goombas. He jumps on the Goombas. Oh, and there's Koopas too. They look like turtles, but they'll actually they bite you to death.
And you came up with all these names, Craig?
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. In the car on your way here.
So
why is he a plumber?
Well, he's a plumber because he goes through pipes.
Okay.
Giant pipes.
And these are pipes. So the Koopas and Goombas like regular animals.
Correct.
And these are the pipes that our little plumber runs through.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So
I'm back.
All right. So we're with our plumber. He's an Italian plumber. And he's Italian because we need him to have a mustache, and Italians have mustaches. Okay. But we're gonna make him Italian American because we don't want to push it too hard.
Do the Koopas also have mustaches?
Koopas, Undecided.
Are they
We're gonna
Italian
leave that.
Koopas?
Look, we got to leave a little bit of room for the
Artists.
artists to work on this,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Anyway, okay. And then he's gonna fight. He's gonna fight King
You
Koopa.
have your stack of napkins you've made all your drawings on that you're passing around the boardroom table.
So my
So
my
this
point.
is the Goomba.
My point is Mario is a delightful work
Completely
of imagination,
insane. Yeah,
but
yes.
it's bonkers. It's bananas, and you can say this about all sorts of things. Donkey Kong, completely weird. There's nothing. Pac-Man.
I was thinking about this too, and actually, you think about there is something really magical in some of those early games too, like the Mario games, because you had other things like Castlevania or Kid Icarus, where it was like at least thematically everything made sense. Where you're
Right.
like, oh, it's Kid Icarus, and then the columns look like Roman columns, and so it all makes
Right.
sense. And then you get to Super Mario, and you're like, I don't know what
Right.
they
And
were thinking. Something got lost in translation here.
And I think that's what I was trying to say is like the premise doesn't matter because the interactivity is what makes it fun.
Right. But
Right.
I guess, and my point is, you get to games further down the road. You're talking about something like Far Cry. If Uwe Boll is going to make a Far Cry movie, he has less excuse because there is a
So
story
much.
there.
Mm-hmm.
There's lore, there's story for him
Right.
to dip into. It should he decide to do so. Anyway, so does that make sense?
Yeah,
Right?
totally. Oh yeah, no, I'm getting.
I just finished a game earlier this year, maybe. I think it was earlier this year. It was a game from a few years ago, Horizon Zero Dawn, and I won't go through what the game's about. It doesn't really matter. The point is that it's about a 40-hour game. It's not too terribly long, 30, 40 hours, and by the time you get to the end of it, you are just wrung out. It's got such a story to it.
Right.
It's got a lot of great twists and turns, and but it is combat focused and it's survival focused, and so it's there's slogging and combat portions of it, and stuff that you just cut that crap out. You got a great movie.
Yeah.
So can I'm going to put on my super nerdy cap for a minute here, because what I do for a living, one of the things I help create curriculum with, is actually teaching video game design.
Nice.
And one thing that I realized over time with that is that writing video game storylines is really, it's quantum storytelling, right? It is not linear. It is, there are layers upon layers upon layers. So for an example, if you were to, and I'm partially stealing a bit from Richard Linklater from his cameo in the movie Slackers.
Oh, excellent.
But what the idea is if you were to make a video game of The Wizard of Oz, and you get to the scene where the Scarecrow and Dorothy are standing at the crossroads where the yellow brick road goes in a bunch of different directions, right? To make that game, when they go, we could go north, or we could go east, or we could go south, you would have to create a pathway with a storyline for each one of those different roads, right? So if that is what happens first, is multiple storylines through different quantum storytelling threads, then if you make a movie of it, how do you actually give it that sort of feel to it, that richness that a game has? And the only way that I could think to be able to actually do that is if you did something like Run, Lola, Run, where you have a character stop in a moment and then think of all the different possibilities they could go on, and we get little snippets of those different storylines before they make the decision of where they're going.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not going to be entertaining for somebody who might love that game and put in 40 hours like you did.
Right.
So that's kind of like, in my head, like, you have to be able, which is why I think a great proxy for how to approach a video game movie would actually be something like Scott Pilgrim. I think that's the closest thing I've seen where I'm like, this is actually has the feel, because it's supposed to, right? That's what the graphic novel had, was to have the feel of, okay, now here's my next challenge. And do I do this or do I do this? And your character gets to make those choices.
I've always thought, in a similar vein, the greatest video game movie of all time has to be The Matrix.
Perfect example. Example. Yeah.
Because there is no leap to making that a video game.
Yep. And all the rules already exist.
Exactly.
Like Morpheus
all the physics and
sets
stuff.
the rules up for us very, very specifically and very concretely.
So let me ask you this. If you were in the writer's room for a movie and it's going to be based on a video game, let me throw out an idea here. I'm going to bring in a world-class dungeon master. from Dungeons and Dragons, and we're
Okay.
going to create a Dungeons and Dragons style game in the world of video game X, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. And then we're going to play it 10 times and see what the best story was that we came out with. So you were reminding me of this when you're talking about the quantum storytelling, because that's essentially Dungeons and Dragons.
It totally is.
You've got all these different options, but the Dungeon Master it gives you the freedom to make certain choices, but then once you make them, you're locked in, and we're going to continue on.
Yes.
So you could play the same campaign 10 times and get 10 wildly different results.
Right.
With varying levels of tension and drama and comedy and all that. And so you could you could write a video game movie that way.
But, and this is the thing that I kept chewing on the last 2 days, is that I think the reason why so many of these movies are poor is actually why I think in a lot of ways, historically, a lot of comic book movies also failed, is I think that Hollywood for a really long time was stuck in this cycle of thinking about lowbrow art and highbrow art. And I think the idea of of just taking whole cloth stories from what they probably consider to be lowbrow art, rather than having their screenwriters come in and say, for years, I wanted them to make an X-Men movie about the Siege Perilous. I think the Siege Perilous storyline arc is one of the best storyline arcs of the X-Men books ever. And they never did it, and they would come up with their own stupid ideas that I'm like, that's not in any of these books. Like, none of this stuff is in there. And they're just like, well, we own the rights, and so we got our writers in here to do this.
The big the highbrow writers.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and even
who look at it and they're like, I'm not going to put any effort into this.
I mean, even Ragnarok, it's like, okay, they took a couple of interesting visuals from Planet Hulk, but if they would have just done the Planet Hulk storyline, the Planet Hulk storyline is amazing, and it's so interesting and weird, and it would have been such a cool character arc for both Hulk and for Thor. But instead, they were like, no, we just like him in his battle outfit, and we'll put him on this planet with Jeff Goldblum.
Fun fact, Craig's Secrets, right? Wasn't that
yes.
It's on the Deep Dive Film School video that you produced? Craig's Secret here. I only thought Ragnarok was okay. All right, moving on. Kyle.
Hang on just a second. Before we move on, I had a thought while you guys were talking about why it's hard to adapt a video game story into a movie. And I think it's actually in a similar vein when, people will always say, the book is better than the movie because it's the medium in which you're telling the story. When you read a book, you have the ability to get into a character's mind. You can hear their inner monologue or their inner dialogue, what they're thinking when you're reading something on the page.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like exposition the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have limitations when you move that story onto the screen because you either have to do some lame-ass voiceover or you have, however you're trying to portray that. But what you were saying about Scott Pilgrim and also about the ability to make choices in a video game, I think is a similar limitation that you're running into when you translate those stories onto the screen. Because you don't have the same ability to, again, interact with the story, or you're putting up some sort of wall in a similar way when you translate a protagonist's inner thoughts onto the screen. You can't do that as well. And I feel like it's a similar shift. It's different, but it's more distinct in video games moving to the silver screen than books. But I feel like it's a similar transition.
It is a similar trend. Well, and if you think about the idea that there is a certain bandwidth of quality in video games to frustration. Frustration feels really good, but you don't want to feel that in a movie. We don't want to watch a character spend 20 minutes trying to open a damn door, right? But if you're the one trying to open it, you're like, I can't get this door.
There's a great moment in The Last of Us. One of the greatest stories in any video game.
Yeah,
I think
makes my skin crawl.
Oh yeah, but there's a scene where. And I'm not giving anything away. Don't worry if you haven't played it. You have to sneak through the basement of it's like a lab or something. There's all these zombies. And it took me 20, 30 tries to get through it until I knew exactly which path I needed to take. And,
if you were watching Tom Cruise just take
sneak
20 minutes trying to sneak past zombies, you'd be like, I hate this movie so much. This is so frustrating.
Yeah. anyway, Kyle, have you said your piece? You feel?
I said my piece.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. No, I that was literally the question we're here to answer.
Yep.
Is why they suck. So
just doing my civic duty, sir.
You know what? Another reason why they like. Well, and I don't. Okay, so like obviously, Paul W.S. Anderson loves Resident Evil. Obviously, he does, right?
well, and his wife.
Right, and he
Who-
loves his wife.
He wants to keep employed.
Yeah, exactly. As one does. But so I mean, they've made like what 5 of those movies?
Yeah, 5
Yeah,
or 6.
5 or
Yeah,
6.
a lot.
And the thing is like I remember being obsessed with probably the first 3 Resident Evil games. I loved when they came out. I'm a huge horror hound, and I just got really, really into these.
I just chose to hear whorehound, by the way.
I'm a huge horror hound. Not even sure. Like, isn't that the candy whorehound? Isn't that? But there is no linkage other than like a handful of really corny images between the two.
Right.
Like the storyline of the movies is completely different than the like. Okay, they
you
have
get
the Umbrella
Corp,
but that's like it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and everything takes place in these old Gothic mansions in the original games, and in this, you're all in these like futuristic laboratories. Like it's all the things that I loved about the games. None of it is in any of those movies, and I'm like, well, he loved something about it, but I can't tell. It's not the thing that I loved about it, and I think that's one of the reasons why. And maybe I'm jumping around a little bit. One video game movie that I love, or I deeply enjoy, even though it's really bad, is the Silent Hill.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just fun to look at, and they get enough of the stuff right in terms of the storylines of like you're.
Are you talking about the first one or the whole, both of them, the franchise?
More the first one. I think Revelations has some moments in it for sure, but the first one definitely has this like, and your adopted daughter has a twin, and she might live in this town where the underground is still on fire, and like it's just as weird as the actual storyline in the games are,
Right.
and the imagery is dead on, which I thought like that's pretty cool. I really actually like that, even though like it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
I know this. It's not a good movie, but I've watched it many times.
Speaking of which, I think at this point, we're probably coming up on the end of our time here. We should probably talk about not what are good video game movies, but what are our favorite video game movies. Okay. As I said earlier, this is a very different question. And for instance, next year or in 2021, yeah, I think it's 2021, we are getting another Mortal Kombat movie.
Really?
And it has sparked a mini wave of nostalgia for the original Mortal Kombat movie. Everybody knows
Ripple.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
really want a gong effect right now.
Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
Or just hear
but-
That was my
Christopher
gong, by the
Lambert
way.
mangle some of his lines.
Has there ever been a worse good actor ever?
Than Christopher Lambert?
Yeah.
God, he's so good. He doesn't even have to say anything. He shows up and he looks like a dog that's been bred too many times. Like he just like he's like kind of cross-eyed and looking into the middle distance, and he looks like he's not sure if he's on a movie set or not. Like it's so good. I love it so much.
And this is part of the reason why. First of all, Highlander is amazing, but
Yes.
also Mortal Kombat is, in my mind, an intensely enjoyable comic or video game movie experience.
Yeah.
It's terrible. The acting is awful. The writing is worse. Everything
because-
about it is awful. And yet, it's pretty fun to watch.
Well, what's the plot of the video game Mortal Kombat?
You fight other people.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
This guy's cool. He's got sunglasses. That guy's got 4 arms. Like that's literally there's no
And
plot.
fight.
And fight. Yep,
Yeah, what
exactly.
does he say? He says something at the first when Raiden tries to recruit everybody, and he says something about like, what's the guy's name?
I love that you're about to
I
do
want
a
to call him
verbatim
Shere
quote.
Khan, but it's not Shere
Shere
Khan.
Khan.
No.
What's his name?
I don't remember
You know
anymore.
who I'm talking
Somebody's
about.
yelling
Khan,
at
the
it there.
leopard from
Yeah.
Jungle
Shang
Book?
Tsung? No.
Shang Tsung, yeah.
Is that his
I
name?
think that's right.
Wow.
That sounds right.
Basically, like, it was like, this is the 1000th Mortal Kombat tournament, and if they win, then they take over the world.
Right. You're like,
So-
that is all you need to know.
It's like best of 7, but like best of 1,000, and they've got us. So if they shake out rock, then
So we're gonna get Billy Madison's third grade teacher.
Oh my God. So you're like 999th, and you're like, you guys, we should get together and talk about what we're going to do, because if they get this next one, they're going to rule the universe.
he's got sunglasses.
chat. Yeah.
She seems good. She's in a tank top.
Yeah.
We'll bring her.
See that guy? He just froze somebody. I don't know.
And he grew up in a monastery, so he can definitely kick some ass. Bring him on.
Speaking of which, similarly, the Street Fighter movie.
Yes.
Same game,
Yes.
different characters,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
same movie,
Again,
different actors.
Poor Raul Julia, the last movie he made before he died.
Was it really?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Did it come out before he died? Did he get to see it?
I think it.
Did he just like direct it and then that killed him and he never got to see it go through editing?
I have a feeling that I have a feeling that it was kind of like, it was like the Star Wars thing. Like he was in it and had no idea what it was. And like, and then after he died, it's like there's a whole generation of people that only know him as being in Street Fighter.
Who was he in Street Fighter?
He was the
was he the big bad?
Yeah, he was
M. Bison.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
thank you.
All right.
I'm like whatever the guy that seems
I can
sort of
barely
like a
even
Nazi.
picture him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's sort of Nazi-ish looking, right?
But that one's pretty. In my mind, I remember it as being pretty entertaining. In part because they go to the trouble, much like in Mortal
'Cause you were
Kombat,
6?
Exactly. They go to the trouble of putting the
You didn't know
moves
any
in there.
better.
You're like, Bison spins and he punches you and he spins through the air, and so they just like put that on camera.
Oh,
Sure.
God.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's awful.
Oh man.
No, but what do you guys enjoy watching in the video game realm?
It's not a good movie, but I thoroughly enjoy Warcraft.
Of course,
I'm
you
a
do.
big Warcraft fan. I love it's kind of like what you're
your
saying
fan,
about Silent
your
Hill.
fan got nice and serviced.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
what you're saying about Silent Hill. It was like, this is not good, but it is pretty to look at until about 3/4 of the way through, when you can tell
When the budget ran
the
out.
budget ran out, and you're like, that golem thing, that is low
So
budget.
just a bunch of like unrendered pixels.
Basically, like it feels
all
that
of a
way.
sudden this very realistic ogre looks like one of the creepers from Minecraft.
Just like, hang on a minute,
That can't be good.
my latency, I'm lagging behind.
Minecraft scheduled for 2022.
See, and this is the thing. Like, I don't like, even with Warcraft, it's like an open world game that like you can do quests and challenges in, but you're like, there isn't any like arc of story, like, and so that's sort of like Duncan Jones is like, yeah, we're all the same. Like, we're all like orcs and humans. Like, we're all the same. And you're like, you mean we're all playing on our PCs at home? Is that the
can we just do Remember the Titans but with orcs? Can we do that?
Oh my God! Well, it'd just be Bright, right? Isn't that what you're just talking
Yeah,
about?
there you go.
So Bright is basically just Alien Nation, but with orcs, right? It's the same thing.
Oh my good heavens!
Since I already mentioned that I really do that my answer to that question is Silent Hill. I do want to say that the other thing that I did get thinking about, that sort of I guess I'm doing the salmon swim back upstream.
Sweet.
Is I started thinking about bad video games that are based on movies.
Bad video games that are based on Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, like the
Strike that, reverse it.
Yeah, exactly.
That whole thing.
So obviously, there's probably the best one that I found on the list was after the movie of Street Fighter came out, they made a game of the movie.
No.
So if
Did
this
they
isn't
really?
a nesting box of insanity, we're talking about Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
So it's like a Russian doll, but it's like a Belgian doll.
Yeah. No, well, it's just boxes that are painted to look like a doll. Yeah. So so that's one where it's like, so the actual characters look like, so you have a Jean-Claude Van Damme and you're now
This
playing
is
him.
fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. But the one that
In that case, I'm sorry.
Oh,
if
go ahead.
that's going to be the case, then I think it was in 2009, the Legend of Chun-Li came out.
Oh.
It was a Chun-Li movie starring Kristen Kruk.
Okay.
And I want her to be a playable character.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Kyle's shaking his head.
That,
I always had
I
the
think
biggest crush on
I think
her.
the moves are very different in your game.
Sorry,
I'm
okay,
trying
go
to
on
wrap
to
my
the point.
mind around this whole like the novelization of the motion picture based on the book.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. You're like, okay, so somebody wrote Close Encounters and then they made a movie and then they made a novelization
Based on the screenplay.
based on the screenplay that was based on the book. Here's the best one though.
Okay.
You guys know about the game of E.T., right?
No.
So,
You were born in like what was it, 1943 or
1944.
oh, okay. Yeah. We weren't around for all
So,
this.
no, this is really interesting. So, when E.T. came out, obviously it was like the biggest thing on the planet, right?
Sure.
And the year, I guess 2 years before, they had done Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, and this guy had made a video game of it. And Spielberg played it and was like, it's like I've just watched a movie. That was amazing, right? And of course, this is like,
It's like on the
8-bit, like
yeah.
beep, boop, beep, boop, boop, right? So it's like almost looks like Pong. And so he commissions this same guy. I want you, and this is through Atari. I want you to make the E.T. game, right? Well, by the time the licensing and everything went through, he had like 5 months to make this game. And so he made this game. He made the E.T. game, and in it, you're this little, there's no animation. You're just this little like set of pixels that kind of looks like the outline of a turd, and it's moving around through a field, and you go into these holes and collect parts of your phone so you can phone home. And so you got to get all these little parts of your phone, and then eventually you can phone home. So needless to say, it bombs, and not kind of bombs, but they actually point to the E.T. game as possibly being what ended Atari in the 80s.
Really?
Ooh.
Okay.
Wow.
It is like, it cost them so much money. And this is true. It caused the video game industry to crash in 1983. It's so bad that Atari buried, this is true, 12 million unsold ET game cartridges in the Alamogordo Desert of New Mexico and covered it with cement.
No way.
You can go to the desert to this day, and like people, you can find photos online. People are like finding like discarded, crushed cartridges of the ET game.
I'm so happy that this is a thing because
Yeah.
after nuclear fallout in like 4,000 years, some civilization is going to discover the ET game and base our whole
and they're going to
entire-
think they're going to think
our whole
they're
entire
going to think this
civilization around that.
civilization was so devoted to whatever this thing was
With its glowing finger.
that they buried an entire cache of it. Can you imagine if this is what they buried? How many did they have?
Because once they
in
start
the world
shipping away at it, they're finding millions of these cartridges, millions and millions of these cartridges. So yeah, and literally it ended the dude's career. Like the guy who made the game, he like, I think he got fired. I mean, of course he got fired, but never made another game. Ended up like going back to school, became a therapist, and does trainings about failure.
No way.
Yeah, so he does all these like work through things.
That's
He's
awesome.
written books about failure and
And this
how
was
to
my
bounce
TED
back.
Talk.
And,
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. So there are 12 million copies of the ET game buried underneath
12
concrete.
million? I thought you said 12,000. That's a different number.
12 million.
12 million
12
copies.
That's what it says.
ETs.
I don't know if that's correct or not, but there is enough that they had to put concrete over it.
That is so awesome. I
Yeah.
can't even stand it.
So anyway, I just that's my little
All
nugget
right.
for you.
I think that's a good one to leave it on.
Yeah.
That they say get out on a high note. So let's end it there, Kyle. What do you say?
I'm down.
Okay. Well, Kyle, thank you for coming in. Adam Sherlock
Oh, thank you so much for having
from
me.
Deep Dive Film School. Check it out on YouTube. Check it out everywhere fine podcasts are distributed. And you can hear me on episode something or other. We were talking about sci-fi movies.
Yes, I think you're on the 101 sci-fi tropes.
Okay, there you go.
Good
Sci-fi
stuff.
tropes.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening to this. If you enjoy what we do, please consider supporting the podcast on Patreon. Patreon.com/legendarium is where you can go support the show. Also, make sure you join the conversation at Reddit, on Discord, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're everywhere. Unfortunately, we are everywhere. It's a lot to keep track of. Let's be honest. But I did get.
Take us out to the New Mexico desert, bury us in concrete.
I thought you were going to stop it. Take us out to the desert. Hey, you take yourself out to the desert.
Just that.
What you do in the desert on your own time. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week. We'll talk to you then.
Are you like right underneath Hill Air Force Base?
Yeah.
That's the one downside, huh?
Yeah.
You're like, that's the ambient soundtrack to my show.
We're just, sponsored by Top Gun.
That's right. Yeah, it's just constantly.
Every time a jet goes over, we all have to stop recording.
Put our hands over our hearts.
He buzzed the tower.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they're making another one.
I know. I saw that. I'm like one of the biggest Top Gun fans on the planet, and even I'm excited about it because Top Gun, but also like, are you gonna ruin this for me? You're probably gonna ruin this for me.
It gives me the same kind of cringe as like an adult rapping does, like seeing like a parent like a rip rap, and you're like, ooh, please stop. It's like seeing him all kind of old and like I'm still Maverick. You're like, ooh, dude, don't do that.
No, you're not.
You're not. Nobody wants to see that.